Lisbeth's complexion was like milk and blood. Peaches. Her eyes were bright, her teeth shiny white. She was young and beautiful to look upon. Her steps were light, and her mind was even lighter. What would come of all this? Her son was an ugly brat. Yes, he was not pretty, so he was left with the ditch digger's wife. Anne Lisbeth went into service in the Count's castle. There she sat in a magnificent room, dressed in silk and velvet. Not a breath of wind was allowed to blow on her, nor anyone to speak a harsh word to her. She was nurse to the Count's child, who was as beloved as a prince, beautiful as an angel. How she loved him! Her own child was provided for in the ditch digger's house, where his wife's temper boiled over more often than her pot. Sometimes the child was left alone all day long and cried, but what nobody hears doesn't bother anyone. He cried himself to sleep, and in sleep there is neither hunger nor thirst. A capital invention is sleep. With years, just as weeds shoot up, Anne Lisbeth's child grew, but yet they said his growth was stunted. His mother had paid for his upbringing and considered herself well rid of him. She was a city lady now, and was well provided for. And whenever she went out, she was beautifully dressed. But she never went to see her son at the ditch diggers. That was too far from the city, and there was no reason for her to go there anyway. The boy was theirs, and now, they decided, it was time for him to earn his keep. Anne Lisbeth's boy sat at the edge of a ditch in the sunshine, whittling sticks or watching 3 blossoming strawberry plants. He hoped they would soon turn into berries. That was his happiest thought, but the berries never ripened. Through sunshine or showers he sat there. He was often soaked to the skin, but the cold wind soon dried his clothes on his body. Whenever he went to the farmyard, he received only kicks and cuffs and was called stupid and ugly. He was used to that. Nobody loved him. This was how it went with Anne Lisbeth's boy. And how could it go otherwise? It was his fate never to be loved. Till now, a land crab. The land at last threw him overboard. Here he took the helm while the skipper drank, a frost-bitten, shabby-looking little boy, and always hungry. One would think he never had enough to eat, and that was really the case. It was late in the autumn, wet, raw, stormy weather with a wind that cut through the warmest clothing, especially out at sea. A miserable little vessel, with one sail, drove on before the wind. It had a crew of 2 men, or rather, a man and a half. The skipper and his boy. The skipper brought forth a bottle and a glass and took a swallow to warm himself up. A drink is a great comfort, and 2 are even better. The boy was at the helm, holding it with rough, tarred hands. He was ugly, and his hair was matted. He was the field labourer's boy, though in the church register he was entered as Anne Lisbeth's son. The wind drove the ship hard before it. The sail bellied out before the power of the wind. It was rough and wet everywhere, and it might soon be even worse. Stop! What was that? What crashed? What sprang up? What grasped the little vessel? The boat whirled around. Was it a waterspout or a tidal wave? The boy at the helm screamed, "Lord Jesus, save us!" The vessel had struck on a great rock, and it sank like a waterlogged shoe in a duck pond, sank with man and mouse, as the saying goes. There were mice on board, but only a man and a half, the skipper and the ditch digger's boy. No one saw it, save the screaming gulls above and the darting fishes beneath, and these hardly saw it clearly, for they fled in terror when the water poured into the doomed vessel. There it lay, scarcely a fathom below the water, and the 2 were drowned and forgotten. Only the glass was left, for the blue wooden block kept it afloat. It had drifted on to the shore. Where and when? That is of no consequence. That old broken glass had been useful, and had been loved too, in a way, which Anne Lisbeth's son had never been. However, in the kingdom of heaven no soul shall ever have cause to sigh, "Never loved."